Welcome back to The Great Detour. Today's episode is a really special one for me because my guest, Jackie Kenner, has played such an important role in my own healing journey. Jackie is a psychic medium, among many other things that I list in the episode, and what I love most about her is her heart. She is genuinely such a beautiful, good person. She brings warmth, humor, and humanity to the work that she does. She's equal parts woo, as I like to call it, but also a really practical thinker. And she has this beautiful way of making the spiritual feel so approachable. And she's always making me want to learn more. Our conversation explores a topic that might be new for some of you: intuition, energy, and the unseen world that supports us. We talk about Jackie's story of growing up with her psychic abilities and how she learned to embrace them, and then how that journey has inspired me to begin trusting and embracing my own intuitive gifts too. Now, I know this topic can bring up different reactions. You might be curious, open, or even a little bit skeptical, and that's completely okay. I just invite you to listen with an open mind, take what resonates, and hear a perspective you may not have considered before. You never know, it might open your eyes to something new. And if you're enjoying the show, it would mean so much to me if you hit subscribe, left a rating or review, and shared The Great Detour with somebody who'd love these conversations too. And with that, here's my conversation with Jackie. Welcome to The Great Detour. I'm Jess, your host. In this podcast, we talk about life's unplanned paths, those experiences that challenge and transform us in ways we never expected. Through honest conversations, my guests and I share inspiring stories and practical advice to help you navigate your own journey. I hope these stories inspire you to trust your path, embrace change with resilience, and step into your most authentic, empowered self. Today, I have with me a very special guest and friend, Jackie Kenner. Jackie is a lot of really cool things. She is a gifted psychic medium, an intuition teacher, mentor, and business consultant. She's an author and podcaster, a mom, amongst many other things. She is also one of the OGs and catalysts on my own healing journey, which started back in 2020. Jackie actually gave me my first ever psychic reading, and then also did a mentorship with me afterwards, which completely changed the course of my life. And I am eternally grateful to her. So Jackie, I'm so excited to have you to the show. Welcome to The Great Detour.
Thank you. It's awesome to be here. I'm excited for today's conversation.
I know it feels like a full circle moment, but I will never forget the first reading I ever had with you. I believe it was back in 2020. And you do this thing when you do your readings where you go off and you meditate before you meet with your client, and then you come back in with whatever information and download you got from their spirit guides in the spirit world. I remember we met and you said, okay, like I did my meditation, and the first thing that came through from your guides was that she is very stubborn. I remember laughing so much, but I think it's true. I think the spirit world was really trying to get my attention for a long time, and I was really stubborn, stuck in my ways, stuck in my head, just trying to live life the way I thought it was supposed to be lived, checking the boxes on my life plan. And you really opened my eyes to the fact that there is so much more out there beyond this physical world that we're existing in. There is an energetic world, a spiritual world, and loving guidance that is always around us. And honestly, it really changed my life in so many amazing ways. So I'm so grateful to you for that.
Well, you're welcome. I was funny when you were saying, I think my healing journey started in 2020, and your guides are like, 2017.
That's actually what they just said?
Like, I don't remember what happened then, but they're like, no, we really started to try to get her attention in 2017. So maybe
I just got chills. You know what? That's when my marriage started to fall apart. I think, yeah, that's when everything started to unravel.
So I don't remember all the details of sessions. It's kind of like, I always equate it to if you've ever worked in retail or at a restaurant, like you'll remember certain things very vividly, but after enough time of people, rolling through every single day, you don't remember all the details. But I do remember with yours distinctly feeling like this sense of you were really stuck. And I always say I'm not in the business of telling people what to do, and I'm not in the business of giving advice or forcing things. But I remember when we finished our session and closed, I prayed and said, please let this person receive what came through. Because there's a level of stuckness when people just won't hear anything. It's almost like they're in so deep that what you're saying won't come through. And I distinctly remember saying, please, please, please let something get through to this person. so that you could get unstuck. I do remember that
I'm so
vividly.
glad you did because it still took some time after that, but I was so drawn to you and the work and it changed my life. So thank you again for that.
Yeah. Happy to be a part of your journey.
Yeah, it's just really, really special to me. So, Jackie, a lot of people might not be familiar with this topic. This might be a new one for listeners. So, can we just start from the top and just give us like a quick 101 in the basics? Like, what exactly, in your own words, is psychic mediumship?
So, great question, because there's a lot of stigma tied to psychic and medium. And I've learned that over the course of my sort of 15 years of offering sessions. And so now I just kind of say intuitive connection sessions because people are really okay with being intuitive for whatever reason. Even though when you pick apart that word, it means you're in tune with something we can't define. It's not material. And that's fine. I'm not attached to the words. Psychic is also can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I think when you boil it all down, they're all coming back to the same thing. It's an ability to tap into the immaterial and to connect to that and extract sensical, meaning things that we can put our mind around through our senses, information or guidance. Medium in particular is the ability to connect with people who have passed. And so for me, it's like, of course, many cultures since the beginning of known time have been connecting to ancestors very openly. But for whatever reason, our Western society, that kind of became unacceptable for whatever reason, even though a key religion in the Western world is believing somebody returned after death and that their spirit hangs around and that we're able to connect with that. So it's kind of funny that people have such a resistance to it, but it's this understanding that the spirit is timeless, consciousness is non-local, and that once the body returns to the earth, that essence of who someone is still reachable. And for whatever reason, some people on earth are able to connect to that. And so that's something that I didn't plan. I didn't seek. It wasn't something I was, trying to make happen. It was something that as I cleaned up my body and focused more on my intuition, it came through as part of it. And people have that experience in different ways. Once you tune into your intuition, we all sort of are tapped into different things. We might call these gifts, fruits, whatever it is, that kind of puts a word to your understanding. And so the mediumship was a big surprise for me. It kind of happened to me, but it's accurate and it's useful. And it's something that I've continued to do for over a decade, well over a decade, and many thousands of sessions.
How do these gifts show up for you? So you just said, like, my guides just came through and said, oh, girl, it like happened in 2017, not 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it just a knowing? Do you see things? How does it show up?
It sounds like a thought that's not in my voice. And so everyone's thinking all the time. And we kind of know the way we think or the way our consciousness is transmitting into our receiver, our brain, and our body. And then you'll have this feeling and many people talk about this after someone passes. So they'll say, I was thinking about them, I was trying to talk to them, and all of a sudden I heard something and I thought, that sounds exactly like them. That sounds exactly like something they would say. And for me, it is them. They are saying that. And that's just the best simple description is it sounds like a thought in a different voice. It's not my thought voice. And sometimes it is visions. So telepathy is the transfer of information non-verbally. But when we're experiencing telepathy, we're seeing things, we're smelling, we're sensing, we're feeling, all inside of, we could say our brains, not sure, definitely within our consciousness. And it's just this transfer of information that I'm like, that's not mine. That's not my regular frequency or vibe. And it's very distinct and clear, which took me a long time to learn because at first I thought it was my thoughts and it was my imagination. And then at one point I was kind of obsessing over something after I'd met with someone. And all of a sudden I'm like, I don't care about this. Why do I keep thinking about this? Why does this keep coming back in? And I had this kind of moment of clarity where I was like, this is not mine.
Oh, wow.
And that can show up in so many ways, right? You can have lunch with someone and be upset and then all of a sudden realize like, this is not mine. I don't need to carry this. But it can also come through with information where you're like, oh, something is sending this to me over and over and over because it is important. And so it was it developed over time, and it developed through focus and awareness and openness to what was going on for me as a receiver, which is such a complex topic right there, right? Like how much is going on in the brain and how much is not actually happening in the brain, and what is consciousness and what data does it carry, I guess. So
it's also interesting, and I love it because you have such a balance between like the woo, but also you're a very analytical person too. You spent many years in the business world and you're very data driven and oriented. So I love that you look at it from both sides. Do you think these gifts, there's something that we all have, or is this just something that psychics and mediums have?
I think we all have them. I think that we're likely, well, let me not get into the why, but we all have them. Some of us, I love this analogy. Imagine a row of light switches, and we're all born with that row of light switches. And some of us have certain switches flicked on when we're born. So we're just naturally very tuned into certain things. And some of us don't have any. All of us have the ability to work to flip the switch, but not all of us want to. And so this switch might be mediumship. This one might be intuitive dreaming. This switch might be where you can hold an object and get information from it. There's all kinds of intuitive gifts or abilities. I just don't think that everyone has the desire even to flip them on. And then some of us, they're flipped on and nobody's helping us understand what it is. And we're like, I'm turning that one off. I don't know what's going on, but I'm different and I don't want to be. And we flip them off. So it's really just, what do you want to work on? What do you want to focus on? And what are you naturally gifted at or in tune to?
I think that's a great analogy. I'll always think of that, the light switches, but it was kind of the same thing for me. I've always had different gifts that have shown up throughout different periods of my life. But I remember when I was a kid, my mom, she told me that I would say things like, "Hey mom, I feel like there's people in my room who are watching me and I feel like I'm not alone in my room." I would just say weird things, but it wasn't until I got older and started healing that some of those gifts started turning on more. And I think we all have it to where we can pick up on energy. It's like when you're thinking about somebody, you haven't talked to them in a while, and all of a sudden a text pops up on your phone from them. It's like, how do you explain that? And that's because like we're sensing something that's outside of ourselves, right? Like, isn't that the connection that you're talking about?
Yeah, it's part of it. It's non-local connection, meaning my body is not in contact with their body, but there's something out there that isn't attached to my physical location that's able to tune into that for sure.
Yeah.
We know that the heart perceives meters at least beyond the body, and we know that it's connecting with and tuning into things. And so there's beautiful studies done with, let's say, horses, for example. Their hearts are 3 times the size of ours, and then their heart's electromagnetic field is 3 times the size of ours. So when we get within a certain feet or meter distance from horses, our hearts actually sync. And that's why horses have such a profound effect on people, because horses probably have the ability to regulate that. And so they can actually regulate people and create this coherence. And there's lots of magical things that happen in our body when our heart gets in a certain state. The way that our blood bifurcates down and then comes back up can set you into a certain rhythm, which is exactly the same as the earth. And that's where we have these really intuitive thoughts. And so we know that we're made to perceive outside the body. And we know that certain organs in our body have the ability to do that. And so there's science around this. Yes, we perceive energy from in a non-local way, or at least outside of the body to a certain radius. And then I believe that that is not bound by any distance or location.
I think it's so interesting how we're all connected. And I agree with you too. It doesn't matter the distance. I mean, we've actually never met in person. We've worked together on and off for like 5 years now. And all the readings, everything has been over Zoom or over the phone. And you're still able to pick up on my energy and read me very accurately. So I do believe it transcends time and space.
Oh yeah, you always were kind of like, I need proof. I remember that in the beginning. You being like, but can spirit tell me something so that I know? And I'm like, okay, let's see. Let's see what comes through.
I remember once you were like, it's not a party trick, Jess. But I was struggling. Like, I really wanted to believe, but I think like the logical, analytical, grounded person was just like, I just need proof. I need evidence. And you gave it to me time and time again. It still took me a while. And I feel like I'm past that. But even now, sometimes when I'm on my journey and trying to trust my gut, I feel like I will still doubt myself and still lose the faith some days. But I come back to it a lot faster than I used to in the past. But yeah, I definitely used to do that.
That's so normal. That's so normal, by the way, and important that you said. And I still have it.
You too?
Yeah, every single session, I write things down and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm getting. And I'm like, is today the day that I have the call or the Zoom and the person says, nope, none of that resonates. None of that is for me. Every single time I have that. And I think that that's a gift that keeps us humble
Hmm.
and recognizes like, this is not me. I don't think this is me. I think this is higher forces at play that I've tuned into. And so before every session.
That's so surprising to me because you're so confident and so gifted at what you do. Like I can't, guys, the readings she's given to me over the years, highly accurate, just so in tune with what's going on in my life, things that there's no reason she should have known she's known. So it's actually encouraging to hear that because, yeah, I think we all go through those days where we just kind of lose faith. But I think the important thing is like how you come back to it and just come back to it time and time again.
Yeah, we're kind of wired to forget. That's part of the human experience. I think our souls know everything before we come in, or all possibilities, let's say, and then we forget. And it's like, for whatever reason, this human experience, we're set to forget. And so we have to do things daily to remember, to remind ourselves. And that's one of my favorite questions when I'm struggling internally or emotionally is I stop and I say, what has my soul forgotten? Like
Hmm.
my soul needs to remember some things. And it might be something so simple as can sound macabre, but often I'm like, we're all going to die. Like, do you really want to hold on to this? Or is this the thing you want to choose if you want to look back on your life and know like that you had the best experience? And so pausing and saying, what's going on with me right now? What has my soul forgotten that if I could just remember would give me a different perspective? And sometimes it's something really beautiful, like I'm always with you, or this is something you really want. Believe in yourself. So I think that being wired to forget is also a gift in a way because it keeps us seeking constant contact with a higher energy. Yeah.
It does. And I feel like that's been my journey. And I know so many others who are on their spiritual journeys and their healing paths. It's just this remembrance of who you truly are at your
Yeah.
core and your essence and coming home to that time and time again. And I think that's what my journey's mainly been is like I built up this idea of who I thought I was and who I thought I should be. And it's just been removing those layers and layer by layer and discovering like my highest self and what I came here to do and my purpose. And that's where I'm at now. And I'm in this liminal chapter. And it's humbling, but it is just remembering like, oh, this does light me up. And this is something like in childhood I used to enjoy and just like coming home to yourself in a remembrance. I love that you framed it that way.
I think too, we kind of test like, is this safe? So, okay, I'm going to peel back a layer or I'm going to make a different decision for my life. And we just test the waters a little. We're like, okay, let me try. Is this safe? And I feel like in this experience of reality, it's a lot of reproving to ourselves that that's safe because it doesn't quite fit in what people call the matrix with quotes. So it is like, okay, I'll try. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to try spirit, but can you just prove to me that this is safe?
It's true.
And we all go through that. Yeah.
It's scary. And it's scary once you establish that connection within yourself, with the spirit world, with the loving guidance all around us. It takes a minute to trust it. And I'm always working on it. But even right now, I just quit my corporate job, my decade-long career with nothing lined up. Like that took a lot of faith. But I talked to you about that before I did it. And like I put a lot of thought into it. And even though in my heart of hearts, I know it was the right decision. And I know that there's so much more for me on the other side. I still have my moments where I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And I'm just like, this doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel comfortable. But it's also an act of surrender and realizing when you trust yourself, your intuition, and you take aligned action, that the universe is going to meet you there too. So that's where I'm at. I'm doing what I can, taking aligned action and just trusting that this is the right path for me. But it is scary and it does not feel safe all the time.
Right. We have to remind ourselves that it is. And it's okay to admit, like, I don't feel safe. Please help me.
Mm-hmm.
It just even those small little prayers through the day, or I'm doubting myself, please help. We forget to just say, send help. Please help.
Yes.
Send help. I need help. Please help.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful ability. And I think when we get into that energy of I took a risk and I'm not sure, please send help, that it's so clear then though, the universe is like, oh, understood. But if we take a risk and we're unsure and we're kind of like, we stay in that confused state, then the universe doesn't clearly understand that. And so those little micro prayers throughout the day align our energy. And then the universe is like, it's an energy world. We know this without a doubt. It aligns us in a way that the universe is like, oh, there's no confusion here at all. She wants help. Sending, versus like keeping everything inside and it's a distorted energy. And then the universe is like, I'm not really sure what you want right now. So I'm going to keep doing my thing. But the moment we're clear, we could call it, what's the word I'm thinking of? Providence, where the moment we're clear, it's like everything aligns to help us towards what we're clear on, even if that's just, I need help today. And sometimes we get really clear. I've made this decision. This is what I want. This is my path. I'm going for it. I don't know how, but it's going to work. And then it's super clear and everything aligns to support that. So in summary, little micro prayers are actually really, really helpful in letting the universe know exactly what you're looking for. You just might not know the how, right? But it's like, I want this to happen. Please help. So powerful.
It is really powerful. Prayer is so powerful, and I'm constantly doing it all the time. I also ask for signs sometimes, like when I'm in need of comfort, and it always comes through. Like help is always there. Mm-hmm.
Yes, ask for signs. It's two parts. Ask for signs, but look for them.
Yes.
And so people will ask for signs, but then they won't look. And it's like, oh, they were all there. All of them were there. You have to ask for signs and look because they're going to be there for sure.
Always. I mean, I texted you about this the other day because it freaked me out, but I was going through a tough time and I asked my guides and my loved ones, just show me that you're here with me because I just feel really alone right now. And in the middle of the night, my TV turned on by itself and my remote was not near me. I did not watch that TV that day. And I just woke up and my TV was on and I was like, oh, buddy. And I did not like it. But you were like, why? Because I texted you and I was like, is there something wrong? And you were like, why would you think it's a bad thing? And I think it was just their way of like showing me like, yeah, you're not alone. We're right here with you.
Electronics, wind, like these are really easy ways. Children, animals are really easy ways for spirit to kind of materialize. So anytime something's happening with your TV, your phone, your whatever, I'm like, no, this is spirit giving you what you asked for. And then we have Hollywood on the contrary saying your house is haunted if your lights come on. If a cabinet's open, this is so common. People say, I know I closed the cabinet and it opened. And in fact, it just happened to me. There's a drawer that's always open in my room when I'm thinking about something. And yesterday I was in there and I was thinking about it. Same thing. And the drawer slides open in front of me. And I'm like, did that just actually happen to me?
Oh my God.
Is there an incline? I'm like, I have my level. I'm like setting it on top of the dresser to see if it's leaning a certain way. I think that there are really easy ways for the immaterial to materialize, and electronics, songs that come on at just the right time are ways that they're like, I can do this very easily. I can get through to this person through these mediums. And children and animals are another way. A child will say something and you're like, what? What did you just say? And the kid doesn't even remember. And they just like kind of walk off and it's like, oh, they were just acting as a receiver for something at the time. That's very common as well.
This just happened to my best friend. Her daughter just said like, oh, like grandma's here. And her mother had passed and she was like, oh my God. But like the kids, they pick up on it too. And I'm just trying now to be open to all different types of signs, but sometimes they scare me. Like the TV thing scared me. So I told them, I said, all right, guys, like not at nighttime. I cannot handle nighttime.
I think I didn't fully close that circle of thought where Hollywood is making all of these things evil or bad or hauntings. And so that's kind of the thought we have when something like that happens. It's, oh, the house is haunted. This is bad. It's a negative spirit. But I've been to a handful of houses where there are things happening and people want me to come see if there's a spirit, which by the way, terrifies me. I don't like doing it.
This cracks me up.
Yeah. And I'll go and I'm like, it's your aunt. Like, okay, this is what they're showing me. This is the thing. They're trying to get your attention on this. And then they're like, oh, I love my aunt. She was my favorite person in the world. And we're able to have a session. And then it's like all the hauntings stop. And I'm like, well, what was scary? And they were like, the light in the basement would come on, or this, I know I put something here and it ended up here. And I'm like, these are not inherently evil occurrences. These are just occurrences that because of the way that we've been programmed, I think maybe intentionally, maybe not, I don't know, through movies and media, is that they're bad. and it means something bad is going on. It very rarely does. Now, I wouldn't go. My husband asks me this all the time. Would you go stay the night in a haunted house by yourself? And I'm like, no, not for $1,000,000.
I remember once you said to me, I don't fuck with ghosts.
No, I don't like that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah. But what you're saying is a lot of time, like our loved ones or our guides are trying to get our attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying to.
That's it. And you're asking for it too. You're asking for help. You're in a time of life where you're like, I really need guidance. I really want things to be clear. And then these things happen and it freaks us out. But it's really just love and support trying to come through.
Yeah. I'm curious about what your childhood was like growing up with these gifts. This must have been really different for you. So when did these show up, these gifts, when you were a kid? Did it freak you out? Did it freak your family out? Like I remember one story you told in your memoir, Parked by the Exit, about learning how to tie your shoes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and like how people perceived your abilities after you had that experience?
Yeah, so I remember that like it happened yesterday. I got sent to my room just because my mom had friends over, and I'm in there, and this big blob is like talking to me and telling me how to tie my shoe. And so I'm listening to it and I'm trying it and I get it. And then I go out and I tell my mom, like, Mom, watch. And I'm young, like definitely not in school years. And I tie my shoe in front of my mom and her friends that were over. And my mom's like, where did you learn that? And I'm like, the thing in my room. And then everyone's kind of like, what's in your room? Like, do you have a TV in there? And like, we barely had a TV. Like, definitely didn't have one in my bedroom. So I wasn't. And I'm like, no, the thing in my room. And I saw the look on everyone's face. And in that moment, I realized that I had said something wrong. I didn't know what it was, but I realized that it was, something was wrong that I had said. And after time, with enough of those, like sharing things that I saw things, I understood things, I had visions, I had dreams. Dreams were so big for me as a kid. Forecasting dreams, we'll say, prophetic dreams, as a more common term. And I started to watch people's reactions, and it didn't take long to understand what set me apart from the pack and what was not okay to talk about. And I wouldn't even say I was consciously aware of it, except that I knew, don't talk about that. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about certain things. We don't share certain things. And then the older I got, the more I was like, I don't want to know these things. I don't want this to happen to me. It's not happening to other people. And so I started to tune it out probably around between 3rd and 5th grade, definitely when I got into middle school. Definitely when I, had my first wine cooler or whatever it was, I was like, oh, I don't perceive nearly as much on this. And I used substances, I never really like lost the plot on substances, but I would definitely use them to just check out and shut everything down. So when you're really young, you don't know any better. And probably a lot of us have memories of things that we said or did with our imaginary friends. And we kind of like, oh, it's just our imagination. Oh, that's so cute. But most people have memories of experiences with imaginary friends. And it's questionable, were they imaginary? Or were all of our senses still turned on? And were we actually seeing things or talking to things that are not of this material world?
When did you lean back into your gifts?
So I got all the way through grad school. In grad school, I started having experiences again. And I do talk about one of the key ones in the book, where I'm working in real estate after grad school, and I walk into a house and all of a sudden I have this like visceral experience and I can't enter a room. And my head starts hurting, and I saw visions of a woman with brown hair. And I start to like tighten in my chest and lose my breath. And I'm like, why can't I walk into this room? Like I could not cross the threshold. So I was working in real estate, and I would show people through houses that they were either going to rent or buy. And so I went to a house early to, you turn on all the lights, and couldn't enter this room. I couldn't even get in to turn the light on. And so I go sit in the car to wait for this couple to arrive. And I call my boyfriend at the time, and I'm telling him like, this weird thing happened. I saw this vision, my head hurt, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, are you at the house on such and such street? And I'm like, yeah. And my boyfriend was in real estate too. And he had actually got the job for me. He knew the area really well. He knew the person who hired me. And he said, yeah, that house is for sale because a woman was murdered there.
Oh my God.
And he said, it's the room with the carpet. This is so dark, but they actually couldn't get everything off the floor. It was an old wood floor and they couldn't get all the stains out. And so they had put carpet down. I don't want to get too dark, but it was blunt force trauma. She passed in the room. They sold the house and I had seen her and I had felt the blunt force and I experienced all of that. And that was kind of alarming for me because it caught me off guard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did it scare you? Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for it. And I don't want to experience that all the time on earth. But I think that looking back, it came through for a reason because it got my attention. It got my attention that, hey, there's other things going on. That was in my early 20s. So all the way up until my mid to late 20s where I stopped drinking, I stopped doing anything. I detoxed, I cleaned up. I actually had some health issues that forced me to like clean up my gut and rebalance my gut. And then things just started coming through. Doing yoga, I was teaching yoga and doing a lot of like body work to kind of restore my body and focus on problem areas. And everything just aligned. And then it was just started to become crystal clear. My intuition was so switched on. That medium ability just came through. And it's interesting. The first session I had with someone where their person they were trying to connect to came through by name, like exactly by name. And this was somebody, I was living in New York City. He had come in from Australia. So I knew nothing about him, but a friend had recommended. And he came over to my apartment and I said, who's Charles? And he was like, it's so specific. That friend actually just came and stayed the night with me in Dallas because we've kept in touch 12, 15 years ago. But to answer your question, it took time. It took time and openness and not being afraid. And I had my own things where I was calling my teacher, just like you, and saying, there is a dark blob standing in my room every single night. I'm getting 1 hour of sleep. What is going on? And I was like, I don't want to connect to something. And she said, that's your grandfather.
Oh, wow.
She's like, tonight, ask him what he wants. And I did. And I received so much. And he was just trying to get my attention for a long time and keeping me awake at night. But I went through all of that as well. And it just took time and openness and facing the judgment of people in my family. We don't have to get too far into this. I really feel that if anyone is having some of these experiences themselves, they should read my book because I kind of just put it all out on the table of like, this is what it was like for me. This is the journey. This is how hard it is to deal with the family rejection. Unless you face those things, you will unintentionally hinder your own connection. It was a really long-winded answer to your question.
No, it was a beautiful answer though. And definitely if anybody is curious, I would highly recommend Jackie's memoir, Parked by the Exit. I read it in like one night. It was so, so good. It's just so vulnerable and beautiful and it's just so interesting to see like what it's like to grow up with such strong abilities. And I do believe we all have these abilities on some level. And I had so many moments of resonance myself when I was reading it. And even what you were just saying really hit home with me about like doing things to detox, doing things to take care of your body, calm your nervous system. I've found in my own journey, when I do those things, that's when I feel most clear-headed and connected. That's when I feel like I can receive the most guidance. When I redefined my relationship with alcohol, when I started thinking about like the food I was putting in my body and just taking care of my body more, or even just making more time for stillness. That's been like the big theme in my life the last few years. And I still hate it. I get lonely easily. And I just don't like being still. I'm so addicted to productivity, but in that stillness, that's when there's space for guidance and love to come through from the other side. So it's been a beautiful gift, but it's taken, like you said, it's taken time and effort on my end. But now it's like, I do feel like I get guidance from the other side. Something else I wanted to talk about was when we first started working together, you gave me this great book to read called Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. And one big theme in that book was the fact that before we come into this life, we choose the experiences we want to have for our soul's growth and evolution and the lessons we want to learn in this life. And so I'm curious, what are your thoughts on that? And do you think that we choose the detours we have in this life before we come in?
I feel like, well, I had to say one little comment. I always know when someone's like, I read your book in one setting or I finished it in 2 days. I'm like, don't you think there's a reason for that?
Yeah.
Versus people who are like, I bought it, but I couldn't get through it. And I'm like, well, you should trust that then, because so I wanted to just tell you, I'm
Yeah.
not surprised that you read it in one setting. To my understanding, and I always say I'm not an authority on anything because I have my own perception and that's going to be skewed by my human experience of reality. But I think we set up what I call pivot points. So our souls know the things that we want to work on and we set up opportunities to work on them. And then when we come into this life, we make the choice. Will I face this and work on it or will I not? And I call it a pivot point because sometimes we don't and we continue in the same direction. Or sometimes we say, aha, okay. And that's a big thing, by the way, when you're in the middle of something to be like, aha, my soul did this. Such a powerful thing, no matter what's going on for you, to ask, why did my soul set this up for me instead of why is this happening to me? Like, why did my soul set this up for me? And we can make choices where we take a huge pivot. And then the trajectory of our future is changed. Now, this gets really interesting when we think about super intelligence that's coming and simulations and the possibility of running endless simulations at the same time. They're not different. Like perhaps the soul is actually some super intelligence, right? That's setting up all these simulations. But in both scenarios, there's endless options. And you are creating different pivot points where you decide, what do I want to do here? And that's where the moment, the present moment, and the awareness of the soul, I truly believe has complete free will. Like nothing's set in stone, but the soul kind of knows, hey, I'm going to come into this life because I want to work on rejection. I want to work on standing in my true confidence. I want to work on bringing my abilities into this 3D reality. And then your awareness in that moment has free will. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up because I always hear from people when I talk about psychics or going for psychic readings, they're like, oh, I'm afraid because I don't want to hear something about the future that I don't want to hear. And they think that things are set in stone and they're not. I think there's maybe a high probability or likelihood of things happening. But like you said, free will is a very real thing. And I remember distinctly talking to you and I was kind of like, do I stay or do I go with my marriage? And I was really struggling. And you were like, you could do either. The option's up to you. Like, it wasn't like you said, like, this is what's going to happen and like your marriage is destined to fail. But I do believe, like you were saying about pivot points, that that was a pivot point in my life. And I do believe my soul came in here to learn how to, like, I think you said this once, like, love and respect myself. And through that heartbreak, and even though it was a terrible experience to go through, I really did learn some of the biggest lessons. And it was like the biggest catalyst for growth that I've ever had. So it was a gift. I view my divorce as a gift. And had that not happened to me, I don't know if I'd be where I am today. Yeah, it was a huge pivot point for me. And sometimes I wonder, like, did my soul, like, before this life, like, say, okay, we're going to do this really hard thing, but it's going to change you for the better?
So relationships are so interesting because they're the ultimate reminder that we can only manage our soul's journey. And so what I like to always remind people is anyone can heal anything anytime, right? So even if, let's say you're in a marriage and your partner is just repeating the same crap over and over and over. Well, they could go to a cafe and have an enlightened experience and come home and say, I'm going to change this, right? We can't remove that ability from them. However, they might not have that enlightened experience. And then that's where it's like, I think we probably chose to cross paths in this life. And that's where we hear the term soul contract, right? And then your soul as a partner has its own experience of trying to have. And maybe you agree to meet at this point so that you can work on things. But what you can't manage is how your partner handles that pivot point. So if you're choosing at that pivot point to embody confidence and trust and love yourself and respect yourself, and your partner has this amazing opportunity for growth, if they would just take that path, but then they don't. And there's a part of our souls that weep so deeply because we want them to. some part of us knows them and we remember them and we know what they're capable of. And we're like, hey, we planned this together. We were both going to grow, and they're not. And that's a painful side of free will. And it takes a long, long time to accept that when they don't. And I feel like watching you was kind of watching that concept unfold, where you were like, I am choosing to step into the higher version of myself, and I'm waiting and hoping that my partner will. And you're soulful enough to know that they were capable of it. And they just chose not to. And it's this huge grieving process. And it's this departure of souls as well, where you might not meet again. That might be it, where you say, hey, I've done this dance enough time with you in many, many lives. I'm going this way. I hope to see you over there, but I might not. And that's why I think it's hard, because we're not just dealing with the human concept of marriage. It's like our souls know something deeper, and we're like grieving potentially multiple lifetimes, and we're grieving future lifetimes where we know they might not show up again. There's a lot more going on there.
There's so much more going on than we understand. It's just so wild to think about. Like, yeah, what you just said about past lifetimes and future lifetimes. But all we can do is focus on our souls and our growth and our journey and choose what feels most aligned and right for us. So that's what I'm trying to do here.
It's hard, but you're doing it.
It's hard. Doing the work, doing the work. So Jackie, I normally close with a question for my guest, but I actually want to close with a story.
Okay.
So recently I was going through a really, really difficult time. It's really personal. So TBD if I'll ever share it on the pod. Maybe. We'll see. But during that time,
I think you should.
I do too. I think I might one day. Got to get there. But there was one morning where I was just really in it and I was really struggling. And I looked at my phone, and we hadn't talked in a minute, but I looked at my phone and there was a text from you, and you just said, hey, are you okay? Because I can't stop thinking about you. And I wasn't okay. I really wasn't. And you got on the phone with me and you gave me one of the most loving and, ooh, I'm like getting emotional talking about it, but you gave me like one of the most loving healing readings I've ever had. And it really was exactly what I needed to hear to like get me up and get me moving forward again, because I was really stuck. I was like in the darkness for a bit. And so it was just this reminder that we are never alone. Even when we feel our most alone, which is what I was feeling like, we're never alone. And there is always help being provided to us, whether it's through a friend, a stranger, a simple text message. So there's help out there. And like we were talking about before, ask for the help, because I think when you really need it, it absolutely comes through. But it was such a beautiful moment for me, and I'll never forget it. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I feel like it's your guy. I kind of have a contract where I'm like, if I think of someone once, okay, I'll send them all the vibes that I can. If I think of them again, I'm like, okay, spirit. If I think of them a third time, I'm reaching out. And so I know that morning it was multiple times. And I was like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm trusting this. I'm reaching out, because we are all, I mean, it's too big of a concept for the closing story, but we're seeing huge breakthroughs in quantum computing right now, which shows entanglement is real, right? So that we have certain entanglements that are non-local and not bound by any time. And I think that our souls are entangled. There's a quantum entanglement once you've made union. So for me, once I work with someone, I'm almost bound to them for the rest of my life, because I do have that contract with the other side where I say, if someone needs, even sometimes it's just a little nudge, like, hey, you're not alone. Remember, you're not alone. I will receive that. And that's what happened that morning. And I know it for sure, because then we talked and there was so much going on. But I think it's higher forces at play working through loving individuals, and it can happen for anyone. If you think of a friend, please message them. They are using that entanglement, that quantum entanglement of the essence of who we are, to allow us to help each other and to really just be there for each other. So I think it was spirit working through two open, loving, and willing souls that you and I are.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was thinking about you a lot that week too. And I wonder if I was being nudged to reach out to you, and I didn't.
Probably.
But I'm glad that you reached out to me. But it's a great point. When people pop in your head, check in. I really try to be good about that now too, because it's happened to me enough times where people showed up in moments exactly when I needed them, that I know it's like the universe at play. And I think we're meant to help each other in this life. We're meant to love each other and help each other. So listen to those nudges when you get them.
Definitely. I agree.
So, Jackie, where can listeners find out more about you, about your books? You have a podcast, Connections with Jackie. You have, in addition to your memoir, Parked by the Exit, you have this awesome, I'm holding it right here, intuition training manual. Anybody who wants to tap into their own intuitive abilities, this is such a great workbook and gives you like such simple tips and tricks on how to tap in and just get closer to yourself and just trust your inner knowing. So I highly recommend it too. That was another one that I devoured. So.
Yeah, it's a great book and I still use it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I need to practice a little bit. I'm feeling off. So those are both available on Amazon, JackieKenner.com. Pretty simple to find me. Yeah, everything's linked up.
You're also on Instagram too, right?
I am. Not very active anymore, but I'm there. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jackie, thank you again for taking the time for this conversation and just in general for everything you've done for me over the last few years. It's just really special to have you here today. And it's been a really full circle moment for me. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be a part of your journey. It's really an honor. It's been kind of beautiful to watch you evolve over time.
Oh, thank you, Jackie. Thanks for listening to The Great Detour. If you're enjoying the show, I'd love if you could leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. It really does help the show have a greater impact. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Have your own detour story? You can share it with me by visiting thegreatdetour.com or The Great Detour on Instagram. Thanks for taking this journey with me.